how's it? Thank you for joining me for some more Gambler 500 Crown Victoria project. Today we'll be lifting this second back corner with the spacers. Shouldn't be too hard. I am once again Stag. And look, it's beautiful. Well, I have a big mess. But look, short sleeve shirt. It's like 65 out. What a miracle. I'm wearing my slippers. And you can argue about that being not safe or what, but hey, that's how I'm gonna do it. So I think I learned some pretty important lessons for the other half, and I think I'm ready to take this on. So let's do it. So we got that wheel off. That's 21. Now we're just gonna get some PB blaster on all the stuff we gotta touch. This is the spring we're after, right in there. But we're also gonna need to take this shock off. Get some PB blaster on that. We're gonna need to get the bottom part of the shock off. Let me just get my creeper right here. Let's just turn that bad boy down. Get the other side too. And I was mistaken the other day about this caliper. I thought it was attached, but it's not, because it doesn't make any sense. There is a couple of bolts that take it off back here. Just gotta find them. Is it really you? Well, we'll find out. And that'll just make things easier when we try to press this really far down. We won't be worried about breaking that line like we were last time. And also the sway bar link, which is right in there. That's pretty good. And that should be a 14 right up there. Mr. 14. Mr. 14. Okay, it was here somewhere. There it is. I took it out, yeah. You took it out and then you sat on it. You dunce. Looks like that's immediately spinning. But if you see on this little center thing, actual threaded part of the shock, we got some flats. Let's stick a vice grip on there and keep going. So after quite a bit of time, got this top shock mount off. Now it's time for the bottom. It is a 15 on the bolt side and a 19 on the nut side. On you go. Is it a 19? It was a 19 on the other side. Looks like that's good enough. Okay, that's pretty well broken off. Ratchet. Make sure that's not going tight. And there we go. And we're also going to want to keep this because the other shock is just this middle metal bit and those two tiny bushings. So we're going to need to cut these two ends free and use them as spacers. That's what we had to do on the last side. Alright, that's starting to get a little bit stretched. When we took the strut or the shock off the top, kind of dropped a little bit. So let's get that caliper up nice somewhere and safe. I believe it's a 10 millimeter. That's going tidy. how never sees that is. Get back here, you fool. Let's get the other side. Yeah, you'll forgive me for not realizing that caliper comes off from these two tiny 10mm bolts, because it really looks like it's a part of the caliper, not some kind of mounting thing. So I got my little pry bar in here. I don't know if you can see that, but I stuck one side like this on the disc and pushed the piston in. Now it looks like it'll just lift up. Come on. Looks like it should go out like this. There we go, a little bit of funkiness. Let's grab a hook or a zip tie or something. Here's a hook. It's like Looney Tunes and stuff going off screen. Clang, clang, bang. Okay. Stick that right there. Probably don't want to hang it off of the gas filler cap. Now it's sway bar time. And you might want to get a jack under this because the sway bar is right now holding everything up. So let's go get a jack under the axle. Sway bar link off, and by that I mean I sheared off the bolt. So that's good. I'll need to replace it at some point. Probably be fine for the Gambler, but those links cost like $10, so I probably will replace it. And now that we got the sway bar out, let's see how far down this axle will go. Nice and slow. Nice and a little bit faster, please. I see it went down not nearly as much as I was hoping, which I should have guessed. Let's push that down all the way. It might just be stuck on the spring perches. No, it's not. What are you, Mr. Cable? ABS sensor? Gonna want that off before things go any further. Or at least unclasp like that, so it'll drop a little further. There's the other one. Okay, plenty of drop now. Cable. Let's try to fish this out. Okay. Bonk. Sorry about that. I know every time it collides, it's really loud. Here's our spring. I should have just got Expedition springs. That'll do this lift as well, but the spacers came in a kit of 4, so that's what we're doing. Maybe if this turns out to be awesome and we keep bottoming out the rear, then I'll consider some spacers. Huh. What are you? It's like there's a breather vent or something in the axle. That's strange. I should figure out what that is, because if we're gambling, there's probably going to be a lot of water fording. Alright. And how are we going to get that down the rest of the way, you might ask? Like that. Stick that right on here. jack decided to crap out on me. So here's just a standard scissor jack I fished out of my Corolla, and that's crammed in there. Pro tip, if you have a chunky friend, just have your chunky friend stand on the other end of the axle. That is way less sketchy and horrifying than this. I was actually able to get this thing far enough down that I did not need to cut this. See, there's a pretty popular how-to video where they cut this spacer cup, and I also did not need to get spring compressors on the spring. This stupid jack actually, when left here, you can drag the axle far enough down that this can all shove in with just a little bit of leg work. Probably got it in. You can hear I'm breathing a little hard, but I probably got it in like a minute. So that's way better than the spring compressor, because you can see up in there, up in here, let me just point, you can't actually compress the springs that much because the threads of the spring compressor will start running into the frame here. And you can only do one side, which can shove way up in there. But then you're only shoving in one side. And then you have this whole spring compressed with just a junky Harbor Freight spring compressor. So believe it or not, taking the jack and shoving this axle down like that is the less sketchy way to do it. Think of that what you will. Alright, let's get out of here and start putting it back together. Here's our shock to mount it with. This is a F-150 4x4 shock. A wide range of years will work, but this one is from a 2000, and work is with a little grain of salt, because if you see here, like I said, we're missing the little space on either side. There was some metal on the other shock, so we're gonna go grind those off, the other shock, and use them as spacers. And here are the bits that I was talking about. It's metal that sticks out a little bit further, and I'm gonna grind it off, but before I grind it off, I want to take as much rubber off as I can, otherwise it's gonna smell like death. Got that about as hammered off as we can do it. Safety first. Come on. Sticky. Ugh. Stinky. Now that's through. It'll be a lot easier to hammer it out. Oh man, that smells terrible. No, I can't reuse it. It's hot too. And there are spacers. Let's go dip them out in the snow. Probably need some grinding to touch it up. What? Where'd all the snow go? Went on. First time with the spacers. Not wiggling around in there at all. And now for the top. The top is a little different than the Crown Vic because we got F-150 struts. So let's shove it down first so it'll go in. But first it'll look like washer. There's a washer. One of these rubber bushings with the flat facing the washer. Let's get it down in there. There it goes. And then the same thing on the other side. We got another bushing with the flat facing up, and there'll be a washer there. washer on the top. Or that's how it's supposed to be, but if you'll note, it's so windy, I'm just going to stuff this bag in my pocket. There's no threads on there. I don't know if the F-150's got a smaller mount or what, but I've tried every which way to press these, so you're just going to want to reuse your Crown Vic one. And here it is. If you'll note, it's a little thinner, and that'll get you your critical little bit. And no, you can't reuse this washer, it's a different thread. So let's stick this one, the same orientation it was before, and drop this down. And if you'll see, there's a tiny, tiny bit of threads at the top to start on. There we go. Okay, it's time for the caliper now. I went ahead and stuffed the piston back in. Whoops. Went ahead and stuffed the piston back in with a ordinary C-clamp. Let's get it on. I remember it went like this first, and then kind of shoved in the bottom. I think I could get a bolt in the top one. Yep, looks like there it goes. And the bottom one is not quite on there. Looks like it might need to be tappered on in there. Okay, that looks on. Get the other bolt. And fish my hook out of here before I totally forget it. So there we go. There is our backside lift. And it looks pretty good. On the backside you can actually pretty much see a difference. I do think the spacers are a little smaller up front, but here, whoa. And I know this was a tutorial on how to do the lift, and I put the stock tires back on it. These nice 31s over here are on the wrong kind of wheel, so I got to get that sorted out. Listen to that wind. Oh, maybe I'll go sailing. No, there's still ice on the water. But if you take this and you give it the shaka treatment, we got 1 3/4 shaka out of it. That's 7 plus 0.757. It's about 11 inches. So, hey, that's pretty good. The Jetta that we gambled last time had about 11 inches of ground clearance, and it had bigger tires too, and as well as a lift. So, getting a foot is great, and seeing that we're almost there with just these junk tires, that's awesome. Got plenty of hours left in the day, so I might do a little bit of work more, but till then, thank you, and have a good one.